Lesson 5-8. This is the one that comes right after 5-6. We're going to do lesson 5-7 later on when we do a unit on how to use graphing calculators. So, I'm going a little bit off book. In the book, we're on page 342, but we're going to do this a little differently. I would like you to start by figuring out how to graph y equals the absolute value of x. And I'd like you to start with a table with these x values. So go ahead, copy it down. And you should have y values that look a little bit like this. So now that you've got those x and y values, let's plot those points and draw a graph. Isn't that beautiful? You may have noticed that I am actually using 2 boxes on my graph for each unit. I went over 2 before I put on number 1. I went over 2 more before number 2. You do not have to do that. I thought it would space this out better and make it look a little better on the video. So your graph that is in your notebook should look something like this. This is our parent function for this lesson, and this is the graph of y equals the absolute value of x. Take a look. We've got absolute value, which we know is always a positive value, so y only above the x-axis. There are no negative solutions to this graph. So here's your first vocabulary word. Absolute value function. Write it down. Here's your definition. It is a V-shaped graph. The parent function is a vocabulary word from lesson 5-3, is y equals the absolute value of x. So now that we've got our parent function, let's see what happens if we play around with it a little bit. Make another table, please, and put these values in it and figure it out. So if x equals 0, y, all we've got left in this equation, if that's 0, y is equal to -2. If x is 1, y is -1. If x is -1, y is also -1. If x is 2, y is 0. If x is -2, y is 0. Huh. Let's graph this one and see what it looks like. Wow, so this is the same shape and the same size as our original graph, but what did we do to it? We've moved it down 2 units. And that brings us to our other vocabulary word, translation. Translation, in math, is when you shift a graph. The shift can be horizontally or vertically or both, but the graph keeps the same size and shape. So, for got it number 1, I'm on the top of page 343. How is this graph related to the graph of y is the absolute value of x? Think that through. And then, hopefully, you just figured out, oh, well, it is the graph of y equals the absolute value of x, but it has been translated up 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Then, second question, what are the domain and range of each function in problem 1? Well, I better go back a page and look at problem 1. So, domain is x values, range is y values. The domain is all real numbers. The range for this one is which possible values of y? That's right, only the positive ones. And the range for this one starts down here at -2, but only goes up from there. So it's any number greater than or equal to -2. Got it number 2, you're also ready to tackle. What is the graph of y equals the absolute value of x minus 7? This is going to be a translation. How much is it going to translate? Hopefully, you just figured out that y is the absolute value of x minus 7 is the absolute value function translated down 7 units. You are also ready for got it number 3, which involves writing a couple of equations. You get them in your book, then you'll check with my answers. All right, let's see what happens when we put a number inside the absolute value signs. Draw a table for these values of x. There are a bunch of them. Go ahead and figure out what y should be. That's right. Go ahead. Ready to figure it out. Next step, let's draw a graph and graph it. So look at what happened. By adding the 2 inside the absolute variable signs, we took our parent function and we translated it to the left. Now don't miss this. We added 2, which you might think would make our function go to the right, to the positive side, but it didn't. It made it go to the left. What do you think would have happened if I had asked you to graph y equals the absolute value of x minus 2? Here's our next rule. If it helps you to write it down, please do. H is a positive number. Then y plus the absolute value of x plus h translates our parent function to the left h units. And y equals the absolute value of x minus h translates our parent function right h units. We are up to got it number 4 on page 344, and they want to know the graph of y equals the absolute value of x minus 5. Which direction is that going to move our graph? And lastly, problem 5, got it. They give you 2 translations for the parent function, and you need to write the equations that would create the correct graph. Go ahead. I'll show you the answers when you're ready. And to finish this off, your classwork should start scrolling past on the screen right about now. Wonder why I didn't just write it in the book.